Today we uncover the shocking truth about UK chips. I'm talking about the frozen chips sitting in your freezer right now, the ones you think are just potatoes and oil. But here's what I found when I actually read the ingredients on 11 different products. Some of these chips contain wood pulp. Yes, the same material used in construction mortar and paint. Some aren't even half potato. Others have 4 different types of flour mixed in. And nearly every single bag I checked has sugar added. When did chips need sugar? When did a simple potato need wheat flour, rice flour, maize flour, and potato starch all layered on top of each other? And why on earth would anyone put yeast extract in a chip? That's a flavor enhancer you'd find in Marmite, not in something that's supposed to be a potato. But it gets worse. I found products with raising agents, multiple stabilizers, and color extracts designed to make chips look golden when they're not. These aren't chips. They're engineered potato products that have been coated, flavored, colored, and chemically enhanced to look like what chips used to be. Some brands are making chips with 97% potato, others are selling you 51% potato and calling it the same thing. That's not a chip, that's a scandal. So, I've gone through the major brands currently sold in UK supermarkets, and I'll expose the 6 chip products you need to avoid. Then I'll tell you the handful which are actually still worth buying. But before we get into it, I need your help. If this video shocks you, if it makes you angry, if it makes you want to check your freezer right now, then smash that hype button. That's how we push back. That's how we force these corporations to see that we're not falling for their fake chips anymore. Every hype, every like, every share sends a message that we're paying attention to what's actually in our food. We're not just buying whatever they put on the shelf. We're reading labels now. We're holding them accountable. And when enough of us do that, they have to respond. They have to do better. They can't keep selling us 51% potato and calling it a potato product. They can't keep adding wood pulp and hoping nobody notices. So hype this video, share it with your family, share it with your mates, share it in your group chats. Because this isn't just about chips. This is about taking back control of what we're actually eating. This is about demanding that food companies respect us enough to sell us real food instead of engineered substitutes. Right, let's get into it. Number 1. Iceland ridiculously crispy straight-cut chips. The name alone should be a red flag. Ridiculously crispy. Why is it ridiculous? Because they've had to add so much chemistry to make them crispy that it's gone beyond normal. Real chips are crispy. That's what happens when you cook a potato in oil at high heat. The moisture evaporates and the outside gets crispy while the inside stays fluffy. You don't need to engineer that. It happens naturally. But Iceland has decided that natural crispy isn't enough. Which means they need to add things. Let's break down the 13% that isn't potato. First, there's dextrose, sugar, added for browning. Then there's the starch overload, modified potato starch, and rice flour. That's 3 different starches added on top of the 87% potato. Modified potato starch is potato starch that's been chemically altered to change its properties. Regular potato starch is just ground up dried potato. And rice flour is ground up rice. Why do you need modified potato starch and regular potato starch and rice flour in a chip? Because they're building layers of coating to create that fake form of natural crispy texture. Each layer of starch adds crunch. The modified starch creates one type of crispiness, the regular potato starch creates another. The rice flour adds a 3rd layer, and when you fry them all together, you get an artificial crunch. Real chips get crispy in the oven on their own. But these need help. Then there's xanthan gum, which is a thickener. It's there to hold all those starches together in the coating. E450, which is diphosphates used for color and texture control. E500, which is sodium carbonates used as a raising agent to make the coating puff up. And capsicum extract and turmeric extract for color. Not for flavor, for color. They're literally painting these chips with plant extracts to make them look golden, because the actual cooking process doesn't do it. When you cook a real potato, it browns naturally. The sugars caramelize, the starches gelatinize, and you get that beautiful golden color. But when you coat a potato in layers of starch and then puff it up with raising agents, the coating doesn't brown the same way, so you paint it with turmeric and capsicum extract to fake the color. The crispy texture, that's from the layered starches and raising agents making the coating puff up. The golden color, that's turmeric and capsicum extract. The whole thing is engineered. It's not a chip. It's a science experiment that looks like a chip. Number 2, Sainsbury's seasoned curly fries. This product, their seasoned curly fries, is 81% potato with 19% coating, seasoning and chemistry. Let's start with the flours and starches. Wheat flour, rice flour, potato starch, maize starch. That's 4 different starches and flours layered on top of the 81% potato that's already there. Why does a potato need wheat? Why does it need rice flour and maize starch? I'll tell you why. Because the curly shape isn't the potato. It's the batter. The coating is what gets twisted into that spiral, and it's made from all those flours and starches. It's flour batter twisted into a shape. Then there's the sugar. Dextrose is listed in the ingredients. That's glucose. That's added to help with browning and color consistency. But potatoes brown on their own when you cook them. The natural sugars in a potato caramelize when exposed to heat, creating that golden brown color. Unless, of course, the coating is so thick that the potato never actually browns, so you need to add sugar to fake the color. Then there's yeast extract. That's a flavor enhancer. It's got that umami, MSG-like taste that makes things taste savory and satisfying. And the reason it's in here is because with all that coating, you can't taste the potato anymore. The wheat flour, rice flour, and maize starch have buried the potato flavor. So they add yeast extract to bring back some flavor. Except it's not potato flavor. It's yeast flavor. It's the same stuff in Marmite. And on top of all that, there's disodium diphosphate as a raising agent and turmeric in the spice blend to make it look golden. The golden color isn't from cooking the potato, it's from turmeric extract painting the coating. These aren't curly fries, they're battered potato spirals engineered to look like chips. And the fact that the same supermarket sells 97% potato chips in the same freezer aisle shows that Sainsbury's knows exactly what they're doing. They know how to make real chips. They're choosing to also sell these engineered ones because they're probably cheaper to make and they look more exciting on the shelf. Number 3, bird's eye potato waffles. 88% potato. And I know what you're thinking. 88% sounds pretty good. That's nearly 90%. But let's talk about the 12% that isn't potato, because this is where it gets wild. This product contains hydroxypropyl methylcellulose. Let me tell you what that is. It's a derivative of wood pulp or cotton. It's used in construction mortar to help cement stick to surfaces. It's used in paint to thicken it. It's used in detergent and cosmetics and pharmaceuticals to create gel-like textures. And it's in your potato waffles. Hydroxypropyl methylcellulose, or HPMC, is a stabilizer. It's there to hold the waffle shape together and stop it from falling apart when you cook it. But here's the problem. The packaging says these waffles are formed from freshly mashed potatoes. Freshly mashed potatoes. Except the ingredients list includes potato granules and potato starch. That's not fresh mashed potato. That's reconstituted dried potato powder. Potato granules are what you get in instant mashed potato mix. They're potatoes that have been cooked, mashed, and then dehydrated into a powder. Then they rehydrate them at the factory, add wood pulp to hold the shape, stamp them into waffle patterns, and freeze them. If you mash fresh potatoes, they hold together on their own. You don't need wood pulp. You don't need a stabilizer that's also used in construction materials. The only reason HPMC is in this product is because the potato isn't fresh and the structure isn't real. They've taken dried potato granules, rehydrated them, added wood pulp to hold the shape, then stamped them into waffles and marketed them as freshly mashed. That's not fresh. That's food science, and the fact that the same ingredient in your breakfast is also in the mortar holding bricks together should make you think twice about what you're putting in your body. Birdseye has been selling these waffles for decades. They're a British institution. People grew up eating these, but somewhere along the line, they stopped using fresh potatoes and started using dried granules and wood pulp, and they're still calling it fresh. Number 4. McCain potato croquettes, 51% potato. Let me say that again, 51%. That means 49% of this product is not potato. You're buying something called a potato croquette, and you're getting less potato than everything else combined. Think about that. If you buy a bag of these, half of what you're putting in your mouth is not the thing the product is named after. So what's in the other 49%? Water is the second ingredient. You're paying for frozen water. Then there's wheat flour, breadcrumbs made with more wheat flour, rice protein, whey powder, maltodextrin, which is sugar, and a lineup of chemicals including disodium diphosphate, guar gum, and xanthan gum. This is basically breadcrumbs wrapped around a bit of potato mash that's been bulked out with water and held together with stabilizers. The disodium diphosphate is there to stop the potatoes from going dark. Which tells you something, doesn't it? If they need a chemical to prevent darkening, how old are these potatoes? How long have they been sitting around before they got turned into this product? Fresh potatoes don't need chemicals to stop them from darkening. You cut a potato and cook it fresh, it browns naturally and beautifully. But if your potatoes have been sitting in a processing plant for weeks or months, then yes, you need disodium diphosphate to mask the age. And the guar gum and xanthan gum are thickeners. They're needed because there's so little actual potato that the mixture won't hold together on its own. You know what holds mashed potato together? Potato. Real mashed potato has structure, it has body. But when you've only got 51% potato and 49% filler, you need industrial thickeners to fake the texture. And let's talk about the rice protein. Why is there rice protein in a potato croquette? It's there to bulk it up, to add protein content that the potato would naturally have if there was more potato in the product. They've removed potato and replaced it with rice protein, which is cheaper. This isn't a potato croquette. This is a breadcrumb croquette with some potato flavoring and a bunch of cheap fillers to make up for the fact that there's barely any potato in it. Number 5. M&S potato croquettes, 70% potato. Which sounds better than McCain until you realize that 30% of what you're eating is still not potato. That's nearly a third of the product. And M&S has gone absolutely mad with the flour. There are 4 different types: corn flour, rice flour, chickpea flour, maize flour. Why does a potato need 4 different flours? What is the point of adding chickpea flour to a potato? What does chickpea flour bring to the table that potato doesn't already have? I'll tell you what it brings. It brings bulk, it brings cheap filler, it brings the ability to use less potato and more flour while still being able to shape the product and call it a croquette. And it doesn't stop there. They've also added potato starch on top of the 70% potato that's already in there. So they've taken potatoes, mashed them up, then added reconstituted potato starch back in. Why? Because potato starch is cheaper than actual potato. It's the leftover powder from processing potatoes elsewhere, and they can add it here to boost the potato content on paper while actually using less real potato. Then there's the chemistry, E450, which is disodium diphosphate again, used as a raising agent. E500, which is sodium carbonates, also a raising agent. These chemicals make the croquette puff up and look light and crispy, but a real potato croquette doesn't need raising agents. It's mashed potato. It's not a cake, It's not a muffin. The whole point of a croquette is the potato, and M&S has engineered it with 4 flours and 2 raising agents to create something that looks homemade but is absolutely not. This is what I call fake rustic. It's designed to look like something your nan would make. The packaging probably has some warm, homely imagery on it, maybe a kitchen table or a farmhouse. But your nan didn't have access to chickpea flour, rice flour, corn flour, maize flour, and 2 different E-numbers. This is food science pretending to be home cooking. And the fact that it's M&S makes it worse, because people trust M&S. They think M&S means quality, but 70% potato with 4 flours and 2 raising agents isn't quality. It's engineering. Number 6. Bird's Eye crispy chips. And just like Iceland's ridiculously crispy chips, the word crispy in the name is a warning sign. If they have to tell you it's crispy on the packaging, that's because they've had to engineer it to be crispy. These chips have 11% coating and additives: dextrose for browning, modified potato starch, regular potato starch, rice flour, and dextrin. That's 4 different starches layered on top of each other. Dextrin is another type of starch, similar to potato starch, but processed differently. It's used in adhesives and glues, but it's also used in food to create texture, raising agents to puff them up, and pepper extract and turmeric for color, not flavor. The turmeric is there to make the chip look like it's been perfectly cooked, when really it's just been painted. Here's the thing: a real potato cooked in oil gets crispy on its own. The natural starches in the potato, when exposed to high heat, create a crisp outer layer while the inside stays soft. That's what makes a good chip. You don't need modified potato starch, you don't need rice flour, you don't need dextrin, you don't need raising agents. But if you coat a potato in multiple starches and then puff it up with chemicals, you can create a fake crispy texture that's consistent every single time. That's what Bird's Eye is doing. They're not relying on the potato to crisp up naturally. They're engineering the crispiness through additives. And in doing so, they've turned what should be a simple chip into an 11% chemistry project. The worst part is that Bird's Eye knows how to make food. They've been doing it for decades. They have the facilities, the expertise, the supply chains. They could make chips with 95% potato if they wanted to, but they've chosen to make chips with 89% potato and 11% coating because it's probably more profitable. The coating is cheaper than potato, the starches are cheaper, the raising agents are cheaper. And by adding all of that, they can use less actual potato and still sell it for the same price or higher. So, how do you find the good stuff? It's actually not that hard once you know what to look for. You flip the bag over and you look at the ingredients. First, check the potato percentage. If it's listed, which it usually is somewhere on the back of the pack, look for 90% or higher. If it's below 90%, put it back. Anything below 90% means more than 10% of what you're buying is coating, additives, or filler. And while 10% might not sound like much, when you consider that chips should really just be potato and oil, 10% is actually massive. Second, check for sugar: dextrose, glucose, maltodextrin. If it's high up in the ingredients list, that's a red flag. A tiny amount of dextrose for browning is one thing. If it's listed as the 5th or 6th ingredient and the amount seems minimal, that's probably fine. But if it's the 3rd or 4th ingredient, you're eating sugar-coated chips. Third, look for E numbers. E450 is disodium diphosphate, E500 is sodium carbonates. If you see multiple E numbers, especially raising agents and stabilizers, you're looking at an engineered product. 1 or 2 E numbers might be acceptable depending on the potato percentage, but if you see 4 or 5, that's too much. And fourth, count the flours and starches. If there's wheat flour, rice flour, maize flour, and added potato starch all in the same product, you're not buying chips, you're buying battered potato. The good news is there are still brands making proper chips. They exist, they're in the same supermarkets, they're often on the same shelf as the rubbish, And sometimes they're even cheaper than the engineered products, which should tell you something about the markup on all those additives. Iceland steak cut chips, 96% potato, only 4% additives, and it's just sunflower oil and a tiny bit of dextrose. That's it. No wheat flour, no racing agents, no xanthan gum, no wood pulp, just potatoes, oil, and a touch of sugar for browning. These are thick-cut chips, which means more potato and less surface area for coating. When you cut a chip thick, there's more potato in the middle and less outside surface to coat. That naturally means a higher potato percentage, and they're proof that Iceland knows how to make real chips when they want to. It's the same supermarket that sells the ridiculously crispy chips at 87% potato with all that chemistry. But they also sell these at 96%. Which means they know the difference, they know what a real chip is. They're just choosing to sell both, presumably because some people want ridiculously crispy and are willing to accept 87% potato to get it, and other people just want chips. If you're in Iceland, skip the ridiculously crispy and grab these. You're getting more potato, fewer additives, and they still crisp up beautifully in the oven. Aunt Bessie's homestyle chips, 93% potato. The ingredients are simple: sunflower oil, rice flour, dextrin, potato starch, and salt. Yes, there's some added starch and flour, but we're talking about 7% total additives. That's reasonable. There are no artificial flavorings, no yeast extract, no raising agents, no color extracts. This is what a coated chip should look like if you're going to coat it at all. 93% potato means you're still eating mostly potato, and the coating is light enough that it's not drowning out the actual food. The rice flour and dextrin are there to help with crispiness, but they're minimal. You can still taste the potato when you break one open. And that's the test, really. If you break a chip in half and you see mostly coating with a thin line of potato in the middle, that's a bad chip. If you break it in half and you see thick, fluffy potato with a thin, crispy coating on the outside, that's a good chip. Aunt Bessie's homestyle chips pass that test. McCain straight-cut chips, 92% potato, and this one's important because it's McCain, the same company that makes those 51% potato croquettes. McCain knows exactly how to make a proper chip. These straight-cut chips are 92% potato with just 8% coating made from palm oil, tapioca starch, and raising agents. It's still got E450 and E500, which aren't ideal, but at 92% potato, it's acceptable. The coating is there to add some extra crispiness and to help with color consistency so that every chip in the bag looks the same shade of golden. And while I prefer chips with no raising agents at all, the point is, McCain can do this. They can make a chip that's mostly potato. They choose to also make products that are half potato and half filler. That's a choice. And it shows that when a brand makes a bad product, it's not because they don't know how. It's not because they lack the technology or the supply chain or the expertise. It's because they've decided to. They've run the numbers and decided that selling you 51% potato croquettes is more profitable than selling you 92% potato chips. And that should make you angry, because it means they know better. They're just choosing not to do better. Sainsbury's straight-cut chips, 97% potato. This is the winner, the highest potato content I found in any product. Just 3% additives, potatoes, sunflower oil, dextrose, and disodium diphosphate. That's it. 4 ingredients. And here's the kicker. These are cheaper than most of the other options. Sainsbury's own brand straight-cut chips cost less than McCain's 51% potato croquettes and less than Bird's Eye's wood pulp waffles. And they're better quality. 97% potato, no wheat flour, no rice flour, no yeast extract, no xanthan gum, no wood pulp. This is proof that you don't need 20 ingredients to make a chip. You need potatoes, and Sainsbury's has shown that a supermarket-owned brand can beat the big-name brands on both quality and price. The disodium diphosphate is there to prevent darkening, which is the one thing I'd change if I could. But at 97% potato with only 3% additives total, it's hard to complain. If every frozen chip in the UK was 97% potato, we wouldn't need videos like this. We wouldn't need to stand in the freezer aisle reading ingredients lists. We could just grab a bag and know we're getting real food. But we're not there yet, and until we are, you need to read the label. Aunt Bessie's crinkle cut chips, 92% potato, with 8% additives, including sunflower oil, color from caramel, turmeric powder, and paprika flavoring. The crinkle cut shape is real. It's an actual cut in the potato, not a fake texture created by coating. When you look at a crinkle cut chip, those ridges are from a special blade that cuts the potato in a wavy pattern. It's not engineered, it's just a different way of cutting. And at 92% potato, you're getting something honest. Yes, there's caramel color and turmeric, but it's minimal. The chip is still mostly potato, and that's what matters. The caramel and turmeric are there to standardize the color so every chip looks appealing, but they're not masking anything. You can still taste the potato. The paprika flavoring adds a tiny bit of warmth, but it's not overpowering. These are good chips. They're not perfect, but they're good. And good is what we should be aiming for as a baseline, not as a premium option. So here's what I want you to do. Next time you're in the freezer aisle, flip that bag over. Check the potato percentage, check for sugar, check how many flours and starches are listed. If it's got wood pulp, 4 types of flour, and yeast extract, it's not a chip, it's a chemistry experiment. If it's less than 90% potato, ask yourself why. Why are you paying for 49% water and filler when you could pay less for 97% potato? And if this video made you angry, if it made you want to check your freezer right now, then smash that hype button one more time, because every hype tells these companies that we're watching. We're reading the labels. We're not falling for the marketing anymore. Leave a comment and tell me what food I should investigate next, because I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep reading the labels that most people don't read. I'm going to keep calling out the brands that are selling us fake food and calling it real. Until next time, read your labels, question everything, and protect your plate.